fog stream nozzles?
Price.
Price.
Fog nozzles are adjustable and smoothbore nozzles are not.
Pretty much. How should the nozzles be inspected and maintained? What are we looking for?
Debris.
Debris,
Mud.
damage.
Damage, mud, make sure the seal and stuff on them are good.
Mm-hmm.
The swivels work correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Bales work, everything.
Yeah, we're pretty. I know we're pretty good around here about taking good care of equipment after each fire. So I have no doubt about that here. There's different types of nozzle control valves that allow the nozzle operator to start, stop, increase or decrease flow, open and close the nozzle slowly, and control increase to nozzle reaction. Pretty much, as I'm gonna kind of hammer this in throughout the PowerPoint, is like whenever time you're flowing water, make sure you open and close slowly to prevent water hammer. That way, the sun stop and change the pressure as the water goes, and it just damages the hose, damages the pump, damages the hydrant it attaches to. It just, the whole system takes effect. So this would be the ball valve opening. So in other words, like there's a little ball that has a path through it. When it's rotated to one side, it pretty much pinches off and prevents the water flow. But then when you push it forward, it adjusts the valve so the opening kind of turns into and is in line with the hose, which allows the water to flow through. The slide valve operation, it pretty much has a choke point, and then when you pull through, it pulls the mechanism back, and then the water goes around it rather than through it, like it does on the ball valve. And then there's the rotary control valve. This will be common with your fog nozzle patterns. The more you turn it, the more it opens and then widens. Here's a visual of the different styles of streams. So your solid here would be your smooth bore, whereas your straight, fog, and then broken are all coming from like your fog nozzles. And the major difference is pretty much this one's kind of like imagine like a tube, like a cylinder, or kind of like a vortex, pretty much like the opening. There's like an opening between the water for the straight stream, where the solid is just pure water. There's no air mixed in. It's kind of the big difference between solid and straight. And then the fog and broken are just kind of how far out and concentrated the water is. Does that make sense? Cool. A hose stream requirements. You need a hose, you need a pump, you need a nozzle, and you need your agent, whether it's water, foam, or what have you. And you also kind of need the person to operate it. So, solid streams produced from a fixed orifice smoothbore nozzle. It's pretty good at reach and penetration power compared to the fog nozzle. So I don't really want to kind of keep hashing out the same exact information there. Reach can be affected by gravity, friction, and then air, which would also apply to the fog. If it's super windy out, your solid stream will be a little bit better than your fog, just before this act as a solid chunk. Where if you start using a wide fog nozzle, the water concentration is more dispersed and more susceptible to the wind. It does provide a large amount of water quickly, and when solid stream contacts a wall or ceiling, the broke stream provides greater surface area to absorb heat and can cool the compartment. So, yeah, caution: do not hit energized electrical equipment with for real any water stream for that matter. Just because you don't want to get electrocuted. So that's kind of why we always try to make sure utilities are shut off on the building. That's why we try to make sure to cut batteries on car wrecks and such, so there is a fire, it's not energized, and so on and so forth. Fog stream, it's pretty fine droplets of water. Exposes maximum water surface for heat absorption because it's more dispersed. And stream performance is characterized by the amount of heat stream absorbed, rate, the largest vertical stream, or vapor. So it is way more prone to be turned into steam and vapor compared to the smooth bore. And once again, that's just purely because it's more dispersed out in a finer concentration for smaller droplets. Now there's, like I said, there's a couple more pros to the fog nozzle or the smooth bore. It's mostly just the ability to adapt to your environment, whether you need to create chills, ventilations, or like, I mean, if you're going interior on a house fire, loft enough, fog nozzle will be really great for you just because you can adjust inside. You don't need crazy amount of reach or penetration power when you're inside of a room. Like with a fog nozzle, I could hit every square inch with a straight stream in here, and if it started getting like pretty sketchy conditions and I needed to fall back, I could change it to more of a shield to kind of protect myself as I retreated. The narrow angle allows for more application of like reach and penetration, where the wide angles for more of a dispersion, absorption, and less forward velocity. So whenever you open it up, there's less velocity to it, so it's easier to advance with. So straight stream is the one on top. That'd be, whoops, sorry about that. There we go. Straight stream on top, that's your fog nozzle. Solid stream from a smooth bore, you can kind of see the difference of water volume coming out. Hose stream limiting factors, this would be gravity, friction loss, velocity, and then the environment like wind, for example, which we've already kind of hashed out several times, but I can repeat myself on this one. Review question: how are solid streams, fog streams, and straight streams different from each other, and what are some deciding factors on which stream you would rather use?
Your straight stream will penetrate a thermal layer without disrupting it. If you didn't want your hot ceiling on you, you might consider straight stream.
Penetration, but also things that factor in our gravity and wind. Wind can definitely affect hose streams, so if it's windy, you want to have a tighter solid hose stream or straight stream.
In your guys' personal opinions, which one would you rather use when you're inside of a fire? Would you rather use a fog or straight stream? Or smooth bore?
I would rather use a smooth bore.
Smooth bore?
Same.
Same.
Because it penetrates the fire, hits large volume of fire in a confined or in a defined area, and it doesn't disrupt the thermal balance of the room. So, because more often than not, you're burned by steam conversion and thermal inversion than you are from the heat from the fire, and it absorbs so much faster.
Very valid point, very valid.
Delivery of water makes more difference to your fire. If you need droplets, you can make droplets by bouncing your concentrated stream off a ceiling or a wall or a recliner, or something in the room. I like that option.
Okay. What about you, Noah? What's your preference? Do you prefer using smooth bore or fog nozzles?
Smooth bore.
Smooth bore?
Yeah, I just feel like you can get more water on the fire, it seems like.
Okay.
Distance for sure helps. I've used both, and so far, I mean, smooth bore seems to be the way.
Alright. Yeah, I also agree with like an 1 3/4. I prefer the smooth bore. But if I'm like using like a 2.5 inch, I like to use the fog, because then I can make the pattern wide. If I need to advance with it, it makes it a lot more physically more bearable to advance a 2.5. So, but yeah, I feel like smooth bore is the way to go. I agree with all y'all made very valid points on why to use a smooth bore. Learning objective 5 is explaining the different types of hose line nozzles and master stream devices for how to operate. So you have the one firefighter method, This is for your small fires and defensive operations, or if you're like in overhaul, pretty much whenever you advance a hose line, you want to, as I mentioned before, this is actually what I was talking about earlier. See how he has the pistol grip and he's already like back up in here. Had some really good instructors back in the fire academy. Always try to grab behind the nozzle and then keep it out in front of you, so that way you have full range of motion without having to like twist your whole body. Because as you see, this guy's already kind of pulled back a little bit using the pistol grip. And every time I've caught myself using a pistol grip, especially as the fire goes on, the more tired I become, I start to chicken wing it and start having to do this just because I'm wearing out. So you hold it behind the nozzle. It will really help you keep in control of it. And I understand as people, depending on fitness levels and such, it can wear down eventually. You can still chicken wing it, but you're less likely to when you're trying to hold it like this compared to like this. So, but yeah, you want single fire fires is great for like, brush, like wildland fires. You're on like the booster line of a brush truck, or if you're doing like a vehicle fire or trash fire, where you don't need to worry about moving interior. Yeah, it's just where manpower is limited, where there's no extreme threat to you, where you can have time to adjust the hose as you need. Compared to the 2 firefighter method is the minimum, is what you want, is where you go in interior. It's the minimum number, 2 in, 2 out, as we always say. Firefighters may use a hose strap or rope hose to kind of reduce. That was that little webbing sling I was showing you earlier at the beginning of the presentation. And then the nozzle firefighter will hold and control the nozzle, while the backup firefighter will support the nozzle firefighter. Usually, I've always been taught about within arm's reach behind, and then you can kind of pull the hose. Your purpose is to help drag the hose and then relieve pressure off the hose so the nozzle guy can adjust the nozzle more easily. So if you're starting to do it like up on the shoulder, they go aim it down, you lift up to get the hose to follow the direction, or they aim up, push it down, back and forth, teeter-totter it. Hold hose with both hands and rest against waist or leg. So in other words, you're keeping it down against you to kind of help support yourself, not just the guy. And you always want to make sure you keep the hose directly behind, like kind of like you're stacking up, first guy, second guy. You don't want to start advancing out to the side anyway, because you start putting a bend, or the other guy starts like losing control, you can kink off the hose. 2 firefighter method for large hose line operations. Firefighters may need to anchor the hose line. Leaning slightly forward helps control the nozzle. This is where you start using your body, like as like a bit of a lever to kind of help lean into the force. And then, how can firefighters control hose lines? What are some ways to adequately operate a hose line, both large and small?
Hose strap.
Hose strap.
Pinning it on your waist, I've found, helps a lot. If you pin the hose on your waist, you just have enough, like you have probably 3 feet extra in the front, and you can just use your non-dominant hand to control the hose. As long as you're using your dominant hand to pin the hose on your waist. That seems to help me at least to control it.
Okay.
Your technique makes a huge difference in the people that you have. The size hose, if we have enough people to run the line, you don't put one guy on a deuce and a half.
Yeah, it really sucks.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. Don't recommend.
But you could, if he was doing it with the right technique, if he was sitting in a yard, you call the hose around and sit on it.
That is an option. You can, sometimes, like if you're doing a defense operation, you've been on the fire ground for a little while, you can, one time I found out where if you kind of like stand on the hose a little bit, kind of put a bend into it a little bit, you pretty much take a lot of pressure off. I mean, if the structure's a total loss, you're just kind of doing fire suppression, protect exposures. It's a great way to take physical demand off your body. But yeah, ideally more people the better when it comes. Go to the gym, weight lift a bunch, try to make sure you can withstand pressure. Also kind of helps having muscle mass. So Does anyone have any questions on the deployment of hose lines or how to use a hose line? I mean, I know all of us have been doing this for a hot minute, but friction loss. This is pretty much what happens, like where the starting pressure at the pump compared to the ending pressure of the hose line will decrease. So what comes to play is the amount of hose you have, the diameter of the hose you have, whether you're uphill, downhill, diameter of the nozzle, and pretty much how much you're pumping at the pump. So like if you're going uphill with 200 feet, you'll have more friction loss than compared to like you're going downhill with 100 feet of hose. Because the more narrow it is, the more tight it is. Kind of like the difference between like a 5-inch compared to 2.5 or 1.75 inch. You'll have a much lower friction loss with the 5 inches you would, or I guess a better example would be the 2.5 compared to 1.75 inch. Larger diameters, you have less friction loss. And then once again, just the length. So here are some examples of increased rough linings, damaged couplings. Pretty much, damaged coupling, you have it tighten off, but still squirt water out. You're losing pressure that way. Sharp bends or kinks where it pinches off, and which that's pretty much the where it's the diameter, because you went from this and now it's down to like that. Much smaller surface area to fit through. The number of adapters, how many devices you have, they have to pass through. Each one you hits another cause of friction loss. And then of course the length of hose and hose diameter, which I kind of feel sharp bends and the hose diameter are kind of the same thing. Because if you have a sharp bend, it's affecting the hose diameter. And then you can overcome these by increasing the hose size, adding parallel hose lines, increasing pump pressure, and removing the kinks and sharp bends. Pressure loss versus pressure gain. So as I was stating just a little bit ago, if you're going up, you're fighting against gravity, whereas if you're going down, gravity is assisting you. And then water hammer. Water hammer hits everything. This is what happens when you quickly and violently kind of shut the water supply off. Excuse me. You'll just kind of hit through the whole system. Start couplings to the truck, the pump, hydrant, all the way to the water main. So whenever you're operating hose line, or even if you're like using the deck gunner, whatnot, start off slow, open, just nice and slow, and then when you're shutting it off, nice and slow. It'll be something that will be getting tested on later during our skills portion. And then any questions over any of the content we've gone over? None? Okay, so real quick, we'll do like about a 10-minute bathroom break. This is a chance to get drinks, use the bathroom, grab your PPE. We'll be going out to the bay. I'll get the area set up out there, and then we will do our work and do some hands-on practice of setting up the hose, and then we'll do our deployment. Then after the last person's done deployment, we'll start working on the hose line advancement while it's charged, and then we'll do a little bit of spraying water. Once we're done, we'll go over hands-on skill work and our skill evaluations. We'll come back in here. We'll take a short 10-question test. I'll grade those, and then we'll be done for the day. So now so it is about almost 9:50. So we'll meet out in the bay around 10 o'clock. Does that sound good to everyone? All right, cool.
Tactical error. Our gear should have been inside warming up.
Yeah, I thought about that.
My gear is now 0 degrees.
Yes, so is mine.
All right, so for the hands-on skill portions, we've had to make some changes to how we were going to operate that. 2 days ago, a ice storm came in and temperatures went from being in the mid 40s down to single digits and below zero. So to avoid turning the front apron into a skating rink and affecting operations at the fire station, we will now be deploying and using hand lines here in the apparatus bay. Over here, we'll be using this table as like a makeshift hose bed, and we have a connection for the hose right there on the wall. And then we'll have bays 1 and 4 open, and then I'm going to be setting up a target at the back of bay 4 for when we need to deploy, do the portions for the hose line advancement. So I'm going to try and set this camera up over here where we can kind of get everyone can see. So. And then, of course, everyone will be wearing their PPE to stay warm and for friction and so on and so forth.
You also have an operational issue.
Yeah.
The engine there needs to come back in service. I have a problem.
Yeah.
Real operationally district problem. We're going to work that into your plan today.
Yeah, so we'll be focused on the left bar, left side, so we don't affect them.
Dry.
Yeah.
I have to have that engine back in service. So we're gonna make it work with everything here.
Let's see. Okay. All right, looks like it's good visual. Also, additional consideration is we have mechanics in working on one of our apparatuses, so we gotta keep them dry. to kind of help make things go smooth, what I'm thinking is we'll just do 3 flat loads, like everyone do their flat load real quick. And we'll just kind of rapid fire that one. And then we'll go from there to a AAA. And then after the last person does the AAA, we'll transition straight into like the charge supply management. So that way we're only having to worry about one line with water in it. I'm just saying that function out over to the floor on that side of the bag so we don't accidentally spray anyone working on it too. So that's full main and half the space away from them. So I guess we go ahead and start getting posted.